Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyid al-anbiya wal mursaleen, Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima tu'allimuna wa zidna bi fadlika ilman wa ta'liman innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. So, we're going to go back to the very first hadith of sales, which is al-araya, in the context of the following hadiths. Okay? So we saw so far they have an issue of basically not things being not deliverable. Okay, so we had the issue of vagueness in terms of what it is, and vagueness as will it be delivered or not, given that you haven't taken hold of it yet, you don't have control over it yet. So now he's going to go to Kitab al-Sarf wa Abwab al-Riba, money exchanging. Okay, what is money exchanging? So we have to understand that in the Sharia there is wealth vis-a-vis its relationship to real use or real usufruct or real benefit varies. Okay? So let's imagine, okay, a chocolate bar that's unwrapped in your hand. Can you benefit from it? Can I benefit? Can you benefit? Yeah, you can, right? So the usufruct, the benefit, the actual maqsood, the whole goal of money is not very much there, right? It is there and usable. Okay. That the owner of this house that I'm in right now has less use of it than I do. So I'm renting it. I'm sitting in it right now. I am benefiting from this thing immediately. Okay. So there's a difference between wealth and benefit, not the same thing. Now let's imagine, for example, a chocolate bar that I've ordered. Click online, or some food, for example. You click online, you order some food from Uber Eats. You paid the money, they're making it. Is your relationship to it the same as the chocolate bar in your hand?
No.
No. Okay. Gold bullion that I have lent, a chunk of gold that I have lent to Adib. Can I benefit from it right now? Even though it's mine. He owes it to me. Can I benefit from it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could in
Oh, you
reality.
can because
You can,
yeah, you could because
but not in the same way that I can if it was in my hand, right? So a chocolate bar a food that is owed to me versus food that's in my hand. It's not the same. Gold, a piece of gold that is owed to me, I can say, for example, hey, Muhammad, I will, your mountain bike that Mikhail likes, I'll buy it from you for the gold that Adib owes me. I could do that, right? So I can benefit from it, but it's not in the same way as the piece of gold that I have in my hand. Okay? Furthermore, the piece of gold that's in my hand, can I benefit from the piece of gold in my hand in the same way that I can benefit from a chocolate bar? Or a plate of rice? Or a
no.
house that I'm living
In the same way,
in the same way? Can I eat the chocolate? Can I eat the gold?
yeah, you can. Yeah.
Can I live in the gold?
Yeah, you can.
Right? Can I use the gold as a cure? Right? So notice there's difference in money. Money that's owed to you or far away from you or not accessible. It could be your money, it's wealth. It's not the same. So that's going to vary in terms of the way the Sharia looks at it. Right? On top of that, there's a difference between currency, which is wealth that is used to exchange commodities. Okay? So we have Muhammad's your double suspension. Is it double suspension, Muhammad, your bike?
Yes, it's that.
Right. Double suspension bike. Okay? That's wealth. He's teaching math to a fourth grader. That's wealth. somebody else is providing you with electricity. How do we exchange all of these different types of wealth? Through currency. We use gold and silver in principle, gold and silver to exchange and cut into small pieces, right? Because they're small, it's where it doesn't decay, it's easy. And we instead of exchanging services, I will teach your daughter and you can pick my son up from school, right? Instead of exchanging services or exchanging goods, I will give you 5 potatoes for 1 plate of rice, whatever it is. We use something in between which is called money, right? That's the wealth. So exchanging money for money, currency for currency is called sarf. Okay? And it's different to exchanging commodities for commodities. Okay? It's different. Okay, so he says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا نافع عن عبد الله أن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال. So going back to the difference, so what is the fundamental difference in a commodity and a currency is the commodity has innate value. A currency does not have innate value, right? A piece of gold, a piece of silver does not have innate value. And worse than that is fiat currency, which is not even gold or silver, right? You know, it's just I trust the Singaporean dollar, you trust it, so therefore we value it. But it's not a real thing. It actually has no value whatsoever. It has no, so even a piece of gold, if I died and somebody picks it up 100 years later, it's still worth something. But if there's no Singapore in 100 years, because it got merged into Greater China, right? Then what does the Swiss franc, sorry, not the French franc that existed, whatever, 25 years ago, doesn't mean anything anymore. It has no innate value, whereas a piece of gold from the time of ancient Egyptians is worth something. Right? It does have relative innate value. You can't do that much with it. You can't eat it, but it does have, right, some value. Okay. So exchanging currency for currency. So it says, Malik informed us from Nafi informed us from Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, who said, قال لا تبيع الورق بالذهب أحدهما غائب والآخر ناجز. Notice what he's talking about. He says, do not sell gold, one of them being absent, the other being present. Why? What's the difference between a piece of gold that I have and a piece of gold that I don't have? So notice this all goes back to the reality of mal. The reality of mal is al-intifa', that you can actually use it. You can actually use it. So a piece of gold that you don't have, you can't do that. Now you can exchange a piece of gold that you don't have with you right now for a commodity. So the example I gave right now is I gave a piece of gold bullion and I give it to Adib. Okay, you're in where are you again? Vancouver.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's in Vancouver. Okay, so there's a piece of gold that belongs to me, but I've lent it to Adib. He now owes me that money. So that is ghaib. It's not here with me. Okay, I can exchange that for Muhammad Sabir's bike, which is in Singapore. She's not here. I'm not in Singapore. So there's a debt that's owed to me. Okay, and there's a bike that's not here. We can make the sale right now. We can do that. Okay, but what you cannot do is I'm going to exchange the gold that is owed to me by Adib with the gold that Muhammad Sabir has in Singapore. You can't do that. So it's أحدهما غائب والآخر ناجس. You can't do that. Do not sell silver for gold or gold for silver or silver for silver, gold. You can't do either. One of them being absent, the other being present. Similarly, I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to say, I'm going to Singapore. I'm in America and I'm going to Singapore in 2 months. I'd like 500 Singaporean dollars, please. And they say, oh, sir, we don't have them in the bank right now, but we will debit your account for it. We'll take the money from your account and we will call you in 2 weeks and you can pick up the money. So what is that? I gave them money now and they gave me money later. Can't do that. Can I exchange dollars for for Singaporean US dollars for Singaporean dollars with a delay. You can't do that. You can do it on the spot. That's fine. I'm here. I'm at the Western Union. I'd like to exchange money. That's fine. Not a problem. Buy gold for silver, silver for gold. It's fine. Do whatever I want. So currency for currency, currency for gold, gold for currency, gold for gold, silver for silver. It's fine. It's on the spot, but you cannot do it delayed. Okay.
So, can I ask a question?
Bismillah, go ahead.
What about remittance? Like if I remit like $100 to my family in India, and yeah, let's say they get it in rupees, but they get it in 3 days time.
That's different. That's slightly different.
Okay.
Yeah, that's slightly different. I can't talk about that right now, but that's slightly different. But a better example would be, your friend has Malay has ringgits, and I'm gonna pick them off your friend. Yeah, I'm gonna send you the money, and I'm gonna pick them from him and send you the money in Singaporean dollars, and I'm gonna get it from him and in ringgits. You can't do that. But that's slightly different. Transferring money like that is slightly different. Slightly different. Okay. فإن انتظرك إلى أن يلج بيته فلا تنظره إني أخاف عليكم الرماء والرماء والربا. He says, and if he asks to wait until he enters his house, so notice he just walks out. So you're at Western Union, you're exchanging dollars for pounds. And the guy says, listen, I'm just going to, you wanted 50,000 pounds. So yeah, I want 50,000 pounds. So, okay, bro, it's going to take me a while to count it. You want to go and get a coffee and come back? Sure. So I gave him my $70,000 and he's counting it all out. He's doing all the things and I'm going to come back in half an hour. Can I do that? No, can't do that. If you're going to went to his house, so this is called riba al-majlis, right? Because you has to be in the same majlis at the same spot. And do not wait for him. I am afraid that rama, an added increment for you, i.e., is called usury. So this is called riba of sales. There's riba of nasi'a, which is in debts, right? A riba in a debt and a riba in a sale. A riba in a sale is you have a ribawi item, which is gold or silver or certain other things, that you exchange them in a certain way without fulfilling the conditions. So when you're exchanging gold for gold or gold for silver, so when it's gold for gold, it has to be the exact same weight, and it has to be immediate, and it has to be in the same sitting. Can't step us outside and come back in again. Excuse me. And when it is gold for silver, or silver for dollars, or dollars for yen, then it does not have to be the same. You can do whatever exchange rate you want. You can sell $1 for a million Singaporean dollars. It's fine. The exchange rate is really crazy or bad. It doesn't matter what it is. You can do whatever you want, but it has to be on the spot, and it has to be here. That you're going to be here. I'm going to take the money right now. Okay. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا عبد الله بن دينار عن عبد الله بن عمر قال عمر بن الخطاب لا تبيع الذهب بالذهب إلا مثلا بمثل ولا تبيع الورق بالورق إلا مثلا بمثل ولا تبيع الذهب بالورق أحدهما غائب والآخر ناجز وإن استنظرك حتى يلج بيته فلا تنظره إني أخافكم عليكم الربا. The same thing. So this one mentions specifically, so even gold for gold, the same story. Gold for gold. So I want to exchange old jewelry for new jewelry. This is a 25-year-old bracelet, scratched. I don't like the design. This is a new bracelet. I like the design. The first one weighs more than the second. Is that halal? No. Can't do it. So what do? Sell the old bracelet for cash, use cash to buy the new bracelet. Does that make sense?
Yes, Ustad.
Okay. So it says أخبرنا مالك حدثنا نافع عن أبي السعيد الخدري أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا تبيع الذهب بالذهب إلا مثلا بمثل ولا تشفوا بعضها على بعض ولا تبيع الورق بالورق إلا مثلا بمثل مثلا بمثل ولا تشفوا بعضها على بعض ولا تبيع شيئا غائبا بناجز. Right? So it says Malik informed us from Nafi' from Abdullah to us from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Did Nafi' narrate from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri? Could you have a look at Adib? I'm not sure if that's actually muttasil or not. I don't know if that's actually, yeah. So do not sell gold for gold except like for like. Do not give a little increase in some of it over its counter value. Do not sell silver for silver except like for like, and do not give a little increase some of it over its counter value because it's old, because it's scratched, because it's whatever. You can't do that. Do not sell or exchanging, for example, 18 karat gold for 12 karat gold. Can't do that because it's not the same amount of gold. Do not sell some of it which is absent for some of it which is in ready in hand. You cannot do that. وأخبرنا مالك حدثنا موسى بن أبي تميم عن سعيد بن يسار عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الدينار بالدينار والدرهم بالدرهم لا فضل بينهما. Right, Malik informed us that Musa ibn Abi Tamim, which was from Sa'id ibn Yasar from Abu Hurairah, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, gold dinar for gold dinar. Said gold dinar for gold dinar, silver dirham for silver dirham, with no excess between the two of them. I don't do that. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا شهاب عن مالك ابن أبي أوس بن الحدثان أنه أخبره أن التمس صرفا ب100 دينار فقال دعاني طلحة بن عبيد الله فقال ترى تراوضنا حتى اصطرف مني فأخذ طلحة الذهب يقلبها في يده ثم قال حتى يأتيني خازني من الغابة وعمر الخطاب يسمع كلامه فقال لا والله لا تفارقه حتى تأخذ منه ثم قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الذهب بالفضة ربا إلا ها والتمر بتمر ربا إلا ها والشعير بالشعير ربا إلا ها. Okay, so it says Malik informed us that Ibn Shihab informed us that Malik ibn Aus ibn Hadathan informed that he was looking for change for 100 gold dinars, and he said so Talha ibn Ubaidullah called me. He said, we negotiate until he procured the dinars from me, right? I.e., he's buying silver. So Talha took the gold and turned it around in his hand. And then he said, wait until my treasure comes to me from Al-Ghaba. While Umar al-Khattab was listening to his words, and Umar said, no, by Allah, do not separate from him until you take the change from him. Then he said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, gold for gold is usually except take this and take this. And dates for dates are usually except take this and take this. And barley for barley is usually except take this and take this. So now we're going to go back from this hadith. We go back from this hadith, and we're going to go back to the beginning of Kitab al-Bay', and you're going to see the relevance of this hadith. So given that the rules of gold and silver also apply to dates being sold for dates and grapes being sold for grapes, here it says the sale of rights to the produce of a date palm. Okay, here we have an issue. So it says حدثنا مالك حدثنا نافع عن عبد الله بن عمر عن زيد بن ثابت أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رخص لصاحب العارية أن يبيعها بخرصها. Malik informed us that Nafi' narrated to us that Abdullah ibn Umar from Zayd ibn Thabit, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, made a concession for the person granted rights to the produce of a date palm, ariya, to exchange this for an estimated amount of the yield. So what's this equivalent to? Imagine if you were digging gold and I say, I will pay you in cash, in gold, for X amount that's going to come out of the ground. Would that be halal? You're digging gold and I pay you now in gold for gold that's going to come out. I make an estimation. Would that be halal?
No.
No, because it's got to be immediate and it's got to be the same.
Okay.
So here you have a date palm. You have a date palm, okay? It has dates on it. They are somewhat ripe, but not ripe yet. You have an expert look at it and say that's going to be about this is going to be X amount. Okay. So now before you take it off the tree and before it's ripe, you estimate it, right? And then the person pays you in dates right now. You cannot do that. Right? You cannot do that. But this is an exception to the rule. That's why it's mentioned here. So this hadith can only be understood in the context of the previous hadith. That there's a whole issue about riba in exchanging gold and silver and dates for dates and wheat for wheat and barley for barley. That's haram. You can't do that. But there's an exception here. Okay? And you see the exception continues. It says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا داود بن حسين أن أبا سفيان مولى ابن أبي أحمد أخبره عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رخص في بيع العرايا فيما دون 5 أوسق أو في 5 أوسق. شك داود لا أدري قال 5 أوسق أو فيما دون 5 أوسق. So it says, Malik informed us of Dawood and Hussein narrated to us from Abu Sufyan. The Mawla of Ibn Abi Ahmad informed him from Abu Hurairah, the Messenger of Allah granted him a concession concerning the sale of the right to the produce of a date palm in respect to that which is less than 5 wasaqs, right? Which is about which is less than the zakat amount. So you're poor, right? 5 wasaqs is the minimum that you're going to pay zakat on. So you're going to pay less than that, meaning you're not an industrial farmer. This is not business. This is your small, poor person's trees in the back garden. You need dates because you are poor, okay? If you weren't poor, you would wait to get their own dates. So the Prophet ﷺ allowed the poor and the needy who were in this difficult situation to potentially get involved in riba. Not to get involved in riba, but to potentially get involved in riba. Notice the difference? So you're poor because it's a small amount. And you wouldn't want to, and that's the zakat minimum. If you had more than 5 wasaqs, you're going to pay zakat on it. You're not going to pay 5 zakat, 5. You're not going to do that. It's going to be a poor, small amount. So we're talking about poor people. A, there's a need. B, I'm not saying do riba. You're potentially doing riba. Okay? This is analogous to what in today's world? It begins with C and ends in D. And it's 2 words. You're poor and you need something. And you're not going to get into interest, but you're going to agree to a relationship that could end in interest. What's that called? Got a credit card. So the default with a credit card is you cannot agree to a contract that says I'm going to pay interest. That's haram. Can't do that. Okay? But you're in America, and there's a lot of things you can do with a credit card you can't do with a debit card, A. B, they're going to lend you this money with 0 APR for 15 months. So if you buy this car that you really need for $5,000, do you think you can pay that back in 15 months? Say, yeah, I think I can pay that back in 15 months. Okay, great. So there's the same logic, which is different to saying there's a need to buy a house with interest, because buying a house with interest is paying interest. So you cannot pay interest for a need. You can only pay interest for a duress, life or death situation. I have no option. No option to get out of jail. No option to have this operation done. No option. Okay, interest becomes halal. But interest does not become halal for a need or a societal need like this. But potential interest does, because there's a difference. Does that make sense? So you agree to the contract, which is going in that wrong direction. Here, the estimation is based on the same volume of dates, but that estimation could be wrong. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what does this tell us? It tells us a number of things. Number one, by default, it's a riba, exchanging dates for dates are not equal. Number two, the Sharia changes for needs and not just for duress. The Sharia will change from halal to haram, from haram to halal for duress, I'm going to die, and also pressing need difficulties, right? Pressing difficulties. However, pressing difficulties are not, but the level of the harm is commensurate with the level of the difficulty. So there's a widespread difficulty for the poor people to get access to dates because that's actually their main staple. That's why you're going to give them dates on Eid, because that's actually their not as a gift, but actually as food. That's their main staple. Okay. They need to access to it because it's not ripe yet, but they're going to sell it for an approximation of what it is in a small amount. It's limited, small amount, right? This is like you go to the doctor. The female goes to the doctor and she exposes her arm because of an itch. It's not life or death, and she's not exposing something else of her body. It's a pressing need, right? But it's not something else. It's like breaking a fast because you feel very nauseous. Very nauseous, not life or death, but you feel very nauseous, right? So very nauseous is a mashaqqa, is a haja, is a need. It's not duress, not life or death, right? So yes, you can break your fast, obviously, for life or death situation, of course, but you can also break your fast for a pressing need, but not just any kind of need or any kind of convenience. So there's a sliding ladder from convenience to need to pressing need to very, very difficult, and then life or death situation, right? There's this, and based on how far you go up that ladder is how bad the situation can be. Those of you who remember the question we answered a long time ago about the woman going to the graveyard, you say no, she can't go to the graveyard. Okay, but what if it was her family member and she was not considered a fitna? She walks out of the house, it's not a fitna. People aren't, she doesn't cause traffic jams, right? She's walking down the street, people aren't looking at her every 2 minutes. A. B, it's her husband. So it's very difficult for her not to go to the janazah. It's not much of a problem, but it's potentially a problem. Okay. Versus, and that was in the Maliki school, right? But just an example. Versus, she's a huge fitna. When she walks out of the house, right? You know, as one brother, he said, my wife is such a fitna, women stare at her, let alone men. Right? Women stare at her. Right? So this woman causes traffic jams, right? When she's walking down the street, there's a traffic jam. Do we let her go to the janazah? No. Why? Because the harm is greater than the need. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You following, Adib? And who else is here? Ashar, are you following?
Yes, sure.
Right. Insurance, same thing. Right. Insurance, there's the gharar, there's a lack of clarity there. And then, so what? We're going to say, but I needed to drive my car. I can't drive my car without insurance. And there's no Islamic insurance. Okay. Right. But it's different to paying interest or receiving interest. Right. And there are certain things that don't become haram ever. They don't become halal ever. If I don't take this lady out for lunch in this business lunch, I'm not going to be able to get the job. Or we're not going to come up with an agreement. This is business. I'm not interested in her. She's not interested. This is business, right? You know what I'm saying? Can I cross that line? Can I go and take this lady out for lunch for business? Like, no, Habibi, you cannot do that. There's lines you can't cross, right? So there are lines, there are rules that break, and there are rules that bend. And they bend based on how flexible they are and how much weight you put on them. Okay? And there are certain things you just can't cross that line, period. Okay? Khair, inshallah, we'll stop here. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.